What's up, boys, girls, and everything in between? This is Raptor Patton again. We're going to be playing ourselves some Starcraft Original, going through the Zerg campaign right now. So, I think that this is not where you guys left off, but that's because I lost the footage for the last episode, but I doubt any of you give a fuck, because there's none of you out there. That's cool. I'm just talking to myself. Which is actually freeing in its own way. Because I'm not a commodity. I am not commodifying myself. Now, the other day I had a rant against liberals in defense of conservatives, so today we're going to tell conservatives why the fuck they're wrong as well. So liberals, you guys can sit back, relax, and I won't fucking rant against you today. I might say something against you because fucking liberals, but that is not the point, or the purpose, or the goal. Now shut up. Spawn more overlords, spawn more dicks, asshole. So anyway. So as I was thinking about it, one must have an ideology, an actual philosophical framework to why they do what they do, and then to defend what is done with something philosophical, something that's been thought through and solves the issues that it was meant to solve. Right? That makes sense to everyone. Right? To have a framework for why you exist. My family is very Mormon. Oh, sorry, Latter-day Saint. And so my mom always told me as a kid, to have a standard. That's what us Mormon youth were taught back in the day, is to have a standard. And so I believe in having a standard, a reason for why you believe what you believe. There needs to be a philosophical framework for you to go, yeah, so I believe this way, and here is why. Here's the argument, here's the deep, whatever, economic, philosophical ideals behind why you believe what you believe. So, one of the problems is that anything that's on the right side of the spectrum tends to not actually have much of an ideology. I'm not meaning that insultingly, but it doesn't. If you're on the right wing, if you're conservative, you do not actually have a set ideology. Because conservatism, and the right wing in a general sense, changes depending entirely upon which country you're from. For example, conservatives in the United Kingdom are all for more power to, say, the House of Lords, to loyalty to the Crown, so on and so forth. The most hardline conservative in the United States would never be for having a monarch or nobles. You ask any conservative in the United States, hey, do you want there to be a monarchy over the United States? They'd be like, you're a lunatic. That's not even a concept in United States political thinking, to have a monarchy. Are you nuts? Why would we have a monarchy? Do you see what I mean? Conservatism changes depending on where you're from. An American conservative might be like, we should have guns and a weak federal government and a stronger, a more decentralized government among, say, the states. That's a good example, and in fact it's an extremely topical example because a war was waged over that exact topic. That exact thing that I just brought up, a 4-year-long war was fought and a few 100,000 men died over that concept of whether the federal government or the states should have the rights. The war was won by the federal government, and the states have less rights than the federal government. Something that I'm not necessarily opposed to, because the Articles of Confederation didn't actually work. I mean, you can be the hardest lying frickin' conservative and understand that the Articles of Confederation that we had back in the 1700s were utter garbage. They didn't do anything. They didn't give any power to anyone, and the United States was just a mess, an absolute mess of a country during the Articles of Confederation right after the Revolutionary War. So if you want to return to that, we'll end up with border disputes between states. That's what we had. During the Articles of Confederation, there were full-on wars between different states, depending on their borders, their industry, infrastructure, so on and so forth. It doesn't work. It simply doesn't. We decided that long ago. George Washington decided that long ago. I'm extremely critical of George Washington, but for you conservatives out there, George Washington was against that idea. And I have a lot of issues with George Washington, but at the same time I recognize that he was a respected man, both in his time and today, and there is a reason why he was respected. Again, one can be very critical of him, but the fact is that he is a man that is kind of a rallying point for the United States. He just is. Same with Abraham Lincoln. And maybe I'm talking about things that are a little bit more esoterically American. For any viewers that are not American going, what the fuck are the Articles of Confederation? Don't worry about it. It's fine. If you want to do some study, please do. The Articles of Confederation in the United States in the first couple decades after our formation is, to me, an extremely fascinating part of even world history. One could argue that the modern world that we live in today began with the American Revolution and ended with World War I. That transition period. The Napoleonic Wars and the French Revolution being another huge aspect of that. Then the Opium Wars and the Meiji Restoration in Japan is a big part of that. Like, these are globally upsetting things. These are things that completely overturned old empires and old ways of thinking. Say what you want about the United States, but we really were on kind of the cutting edge of the New World. Not the New World as in the Americas, I mean the New World as in a New World construction. Most of the world, most of the free world at least, follows, to an extent, a lot of what happened in the American Revolution. It was a lot of the aspects of the Enlightenment era, which is fascinating. The Enlightenment era started elsewhere, but you've got people like John Adams, Thomas Paine, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, what's that one guy's name that came up with the frickin' invisible hand of the free market, which is a bunch of crap. Someone believes in the invisible hand of the free market. It's a metaphysical concept. It doesn't actually mean anything. The invisible hand. We're talking politics and economy here, not religion. Get your metaphysical, non-existent hand out of my argument. But anyway, I digress. The U.S. Revolution really was a defining feature in modern-day society. And again, oh, for fuck's sake. Are you kidding me? They just happened to attack at that moment? Seems awfully frickin' convenient to me, if you want my opinion. But anyway, again, I digress once more. Kill that guy. Anyway, I digress. Again, now that I've been interrupted by the computer, these ideas of enlightenment, however, were very popular in the late Renaissance. Starting in the Renaissance, I mean, one could trace the ideas of enlightenment all the way back, and liberalism. Now, mind you, for the next little while, when I use the word liberal or liberalism, I am not talking about modern-day SJWs. I'm talking about people like Ben Franklin. The ideals of a liberal, liberty-based society. It would be erroneous to think of George Washington as anything but a liberal. For his time, perhaps, mind you. But he was a liberal. The original ideals of the United States, what we founded our revolution on, were the ideals of liberalism. Liberty, progressivism, that's what the United States was founded on. So that's one of my arguments against conservatism, is I'm like, you want to go back to a concept based on liberal ideals, but without any progressive force forward. I don't understand that. And so, in this video, I'm not defending liberals, trust me. I'm just talking about the history of liberalism. So you've got all these things from all these different writers for centuries. The ideals of liberalism and the Enlightenment were being profess throughout Europe and in North America. North American society, colonial society, mind you. I'm talking about European concepts in the New World. I can definitely argue for a long time about the evils that were done to the natives here, but we'll go into that some other time. I don't even want to touch that basket right now. But to put it brief, the United States is founded on the ideas of liberalism, of freedom for all people. Now, the United States to begin with did not have that. Only land-owning white males could vote. I believe that all people should be able to vote. I believe that all people should be able to have a voice within their government. I am a hardcore democracy supporter, a true democracy. The only way that I see it to get true democracy, though, is within many of the writings more of the 19th century. The 18th century was still dealing with, say, slavery. And if Native Americans are humans. I think we're past those concepts now. I don't think that we need to discuss those in any real sense, and anyone that wants to debate against that, to me, their arguments can be thrown out without evidence. They're entirely disposable. Anyone that argues that a group of people, because of their race or religion, is inferior to another group of people is automatically wrong. There are reasons for that. There are deep philosophical arguments, but why go into them? Why even try? These people that are saying shit like that are not the type of people that do a lot of thinking. They simply don't. That's not to say, again, that I am agreeing with SJWs. I am talking about liberalism as a concept, as a philosophical concept within North America and Western Europe thought processes. And that's cool, because our founding fathers were of that style of thought. They believed that that people should not be ruled by kings. The most hardline communist in the world is going to be all for the United States Revolution and for the progress in human civilization that the United States promised. That's a fact. We were the next stage forward in thought and philosophy and the structure of a government and a nation on this planet. The next step forward. Not a perfect one, mind you. I would never argue the United States has ever been perfect. Oh God, not by a long shot. But at the same time, it was progress. It was a move forward. And honestly, it succeeded on a lot of its counts. It took a lot of time, but the structure of the United States allowed for such a thing. I didn't want that. I wanted an evolution chamber. Alright. So, now that I've rambled enough, I guess, for a bit, I think that it's probably about time to call it on this episode. Has everyone enjoyed my rambling? Like, I'm speaking just from experience and knowledge. I'm not here to pull out a book and make you read something. That's fine. But you must understand that the world is a much more complicated place than I think a lot of people give it credit for. A lot of people seem to think that the president's sitting in his office, whatever president it is, and is hitting a lever that goes gas prices up and taxes up, or taxes low and gas prices low. That's not how this works. Policies and concepts within a political situation are entirely complicated. And for someone to then advocate the idea of stupidity, of ignorance, I've had actual people say that Obama was too flowery in his language and too complicated. He spoke too eloquently. What? We're in the U.S. We were founded on the ideals of a literate population. of a not stupid population, and yet you advocate the ideas of stupidity? All of our founding fathers were brilliant. They were very well-educated, well-read men. And then you're going to be like, oh, yeah, so-and-so was too smart. I didn't like that. So-and-so's much more grounded. I'm not an advocate of a stupid population. And if you want to be stupid, have fun with that shit. Fuck. Anyway. So, I think we've had a lot of fun today. I did a lot of rambling. So y'all take care. See you next time.